All right. Speaking of a mess, Sheriff Nanos has a recall around him. Now, I wish I could say that this actually means that Sheriff Nanos may get pushed out of his position, but I actually don't think it's going to happen because Sheriff Nanos, I mean, how many politicians, how many different people have we tried to recall in our lives? I think recalls are bullshit, right? Like it's just little signatures out there. I don't think they're real. But it is actually they're trying to actually do it. So Sheriff Nanos has um a recall that he's facing over the kidnapping. And what it is he is a Democrat and he went against a Republican for this position of sheriff. And he ended up winning by I think like 500 votes. So, and he also treated her horribly. Now, meanwhile, Daniel Gutierrez, they call him a Republican congressional candidate, is among those gathering signatures in an effort to remove him. So, whether or not this is like a political issue, I wish it wasn't. I wish they just took out the word Republican, Democrat, because I actually just think even people that are of his politics should agree that he probably should be recalled and he's probably not the best in the position. Um, he's obviously handled Nancy absolutely horrendous. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, 7 weeks, no suspect identified. And so now they're putting together this recall. They already didn't like him. They already struggled with him, but this was what they call the straw that broke the camel's back. It says, it's a shame that crime has risen to this point in our community, and I can't blame just Nanos. We have failed leadership in Pima County. So he's going around and trying to you have to get like 200,000 or something signatures. It's pretty crazy. But Nanos has responded to the recall effort this week. And he had a very legit, actually very logistical response, which was, we're aware of the recall and it's the right of the people. We'll always honor the will of the people. I just think that he's a liar. He's shady. He has covered up for someone. I don't know who it is. He's covered up for someone. And I would not feel good. In my opinion, I would not be or feel good if my sheriff of my little town was Sheriff Nanos. It would make me feel a little bit concerned. That's my feeling. In terms of the investigation for Nancy Guthrie, JLR Investigates is gone. Brian Enton is gone. Savannah has gone. Everyone's gone. Now, the New York Post decided on the day that like no one else is there, they decided to release an article where they basically say that people are taking advantage of the case, and they call them these YouTubers and kind of what was the word that they called them? I sent the article this morning to Zach because it's so ridiculous. It really is so ridiculous. But they're kind of attacking the people that are standing outside of Nancy Guthrie's house and YouTubing and streaming and following. And I get why they're annoyed with it, because that's mainstream media's job. It's not like mainstream media wasn't out there the entire time until just like last week as well. But they really don't like when YouTubers, online people, or anyone like that gets involved with anything that should be mainstream media. It immediately signifies to them that their jobs are not as important, and that, it bothers them because it makes them feel like they may lose their ability to kind of have a monopoly in true crime and all these stories. Now, I understand to an extent. I do. I understand to an extent, because when you're working with these kind of true crime cases or anything like that, it's tough. Look, you want to keep the facts straight. You want to make sure that you're not ruining the case. You don't want to harass people that are unfairly accused in a case. But YouTubers, and I go like this with my hands, YouTubers, because would you consider Brian Enton a YouTuber? What makes Brian Enton more of a YouTube journalist than someone else that is doing the same thing but in a smaller platform? Do you have to get like a journalism license? Does Brian Enton have a certificate of journalism? Like, I don't understand what really is the difference. Some are much more responsible in their journalism. I know Brian Enton, for example, is incredibly responsible and he will never say anything out of turn. He may mess up, but he will always he'll still stick to the facts. He doesn't say anything for clickbait. He's very honest and real. And people like JLR and those others may not care as much about like sticking to the facts. They follow the story. They follow the drama and the heightened and this and this and that. But there's really no, if I stood there with a camera for 30 days, would you guys call me just a YouTuber or would I be a journalist? Like, what's the difference now at this point? And I think that that scares the crap out of actual journalists. It really does. And it's very similar to the Jake Shane story that's kind of going around right now, how Jake Shane, who is an influencer, should not be a red carpet host. And we can talk about that in a second if you guys are interested, because I have some thoughts on that. But I get it. And I also find it to come from a place of panic. It's like when people go after AI for taking their jobs. I get it. And also, it's coming from a place of, oh my God, I don't want AI to steal my career. It's coming from a place of fear as well. I think that in this case, they are really, really upset because they feel like reporters just kind of were doing it for their own money. They were doing it for clicks and for views. And by the way, yes, and of course they were. Just like LA Times and New York Times does the same thing. Just like News Nation and CNN and Fox News does the same thing. Like, that's the business. The business is not, it's not some pro bono. I don't think anyone out there was standing in front of Nancy Guthrie's house for 75 days. Not really, but like for 40 days, just out of the goodness of their heart. It's a job. It becomes a job. Whether or not they meant for it to be a job, they realized there was human interest. But I will say very clearly that I don't believe anyone would have stalked that location so long and so much if not for the lack of communication with Sheriff Nanos. I really do believe this all goes back to him. He's like the head of the snake. If he just released more information and filled in some of those gaps in those early days, I don't think there would be such a desire to make sure that we had eyes on the scene at all times, because we weren't getting the true story. We weren't getting any of the real information. And because of that, like, you fill in the gaps. You want to fill in the gaps. There's a human interest in filling in the gaps. So when we spend so much time, like the New York Post or Savannah Guthrie, being angry at the YouTubers and the reporters and the online streamers who are standing there outside of the house and still keeping the story alive 40 days in, whereas you can't find any articles about it on any of the news websites anymore because no one really cares about this case anymore. I would be grateful if I were the family or if I were Sheriff Nanos. If I truly gave a crap about getting this case solved, I would be grateful that people and the amateur sleuths and the online reporters and the moms that are drinking wine and trying to solve true crime are out there and still care. They're making my job easier. Why are you why are you angry at those people? Why are you offended by those people? That's weird. God, you guys, every day people go missing. Do you know what people would do to have Nancy Grace or Ashley Banfield and Brian Enton and people like me and Zach and people like JLR Investigates and true crime X accounts? They would do anything to get on our radar. None of it makes sense. It's an unsolved mystery and unsolved crime. When you have an unsolved crime, I would think your goal is like all eyes on it. Fix it, solve it. Taking tips now. Like, can you imagine if Ellen Greenberg's parents, do you guys remember the apartment in 603, the death in apartment 603? I think that's what it was called with Ellen Greenberg, that horrendous stabbing story. Can you imagine Ellen Greenberg's mom saying, please stop covering it? Donna, Gavin Fish, surviving the survivor, stop talking about it. Please leave it. No, they will do anything to keep that story alive because that's about trying to find the answer to a horrendous crime that is unsolved in their minds. Right? That's how I feel about it.